Wait a minute. All right, folks, it's Saturday. It's the first reaction video of 2020, and the community voted on quite a doozy of a song. So, this song, I'm sure you've heard of it, is by a band called Lowlife. The song is called Deadweight, and it's got 12 guest vocalists. And if you include the vocalist of the actual band who starts the song, just from the list I have here, I had to make up myself a cheat sheet of who's where. It's actually in the description of the video, their video, thank goodness. That's 13 vocalists. Wow. So community started me with a challenge, but we're going to do it. I'm excited, actually. I've been looking forward to this. So some of these vocalists I'm familiar with, and I'll have an idea of what they're doing. Others, like Tom Barber, so it's got, well, we'll just talk about them when we get to them, but like Tom Barber, I'm not super familiar with. Yeah, Duncan Bentley. I mean, I've heard Vulvodynia, but not super familiar. So this is gonna be fun. But because there are so many vocalists, and because this is gonna be a lot, we're just gonna get straight into it. We've been recording for 2 minutes now, and that's too much. So let's just jump in. Here we go. Lowlife, Deadweight. We're gonna take it vocalist by vocalist and talk about what they're doing. Got my tea, decaf, of course. Oh, there's a person right there. So we'll stop there because that's where the timestamps say that Caleb Branham, the vocalist of Lowlife, stopped. A lot of vocal styles in there. So I'm pretty sure I would love it. I don't know if this is true, but I would love it if that first scream, Deadweight, was all the vocalists screaming it and they just layered them together. God, that'd be sick. It sounded like a ton of vocal layers. Yeah, it sounded like a ton of vocal layers. I kind of want to listen to his section one more time. And this, just a heads up, this is going to be a very in-depth and detailed video. So just buckle up, folks. Here we go. I guess we could have gone a little farther. There's totally like a ghosty person there. So that's kind of like a yell. Way! Way! Kind of like building from that. Way! So fucking! Like that. His sounds a little bit breathier than mine. Way! So fucking! That sounds like what it's building on. For that, we've talked about this in other videos, but it kind of builds on sort of a belting technique. A lot of engagement here. Super relaxed. Pointing the resonance forward so you're not putting the work on the vocal folds here. CA! Sounds like a pretty standard metal high. CA! He's just got it pushed really high up. CA! That's that kind of guttural, flat tongue. Maybe a couple layers. That one was pretty good. There you go. Got a little bit of like maybe a tunnel on that low. thing I'm appreciating about this song is there are very clear musical transitions, so I kind of know when they're about to switch vocalists. So that sounded crazy, and it's going to blow your mind, but it's actually not that hard to do. So let's talk about it. Let's hear it one more time. I won't scream along with it. Okay, so the thing about this is, what's the best way to talk about it? So, what's happening is he's using very, very, very little air, and the reason that that's important is because if his false chords, if his vocal anatomy was flapping really, really, really fast, it wouldn't have that slow, clicky. I don't know if I would call these like cricket vocals, as we've heard of in the slam songs, but if it was vibrating fast, you wouldn't have that slow click, 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 click sort of rattly sound. Also, slower vibration, lower tone, faster vibration, faster tone. This is sign language for metal vocals, by the way. I don't know if you know that. Anyway, so what he's doing is he's got a low amount of air usage, good compression, and then the other key is it's crazy steady. Like it is a perfectly steady push on that air.
Things will never change. We will surely die.
And everything's being articulated in the front. I'm going to scream along with it here just to see how close I can get.
Things will never change. We will surely die. Everything will live.
So it's kind of like that. I got the lyrics wrong because I don't know them. Maggots. This is also something really fun to do with a tunnel. See? It's just a slow push with compression up top. Ooh, tunnels on that. So these highs, this is Reese Peters, Babarusa, the Senate, Protoforum, and previously a night in Texas. It's interesting. The highs kind of remind me of Chelsea Grin, older Chelsea Grin, the song My Damnation. These might be Fry vocals on the highs. Could be. Let's listen to it a little bit more. Let's get a better idea of what's going on here. If I was trying to do this, because it could be highs, or I'm sorry, it could be vocal fry. If I was trying to do this, I would approach it kind of how I do some of my sort of black metal-y vocals on a project called Never Breath that me and some of the guys are working on. But I would give it kind of a slow push, and I would make it like a high sort of shouting scream. Let me kind of try here. It's not quite the same thing. No, it doesn't sound like quite the same thing, but that is how I would approach it. If I were doing this style. And then the tunnel. That's how I would go about it. It's nice that those lows were definitely false chord, and they sounded really good. All right, looks like coming up we've got Ben Mason, Bound in Fear. Oh. Okay, sure.
We live our lives my pieces of me, feeding the machine.
All right, holy crap. He did a lot in there. So, he started at 145. No. Yeah, 145. So he went 145 through 215.
Inside the system, within its protocols, we live our lives by pieces of me, feeding the machine.
Okay, so he's doing two things there. The lows are false chord, and especially at the end there, he is really, really maximizing the resonance, the room for the vocals to resonate in his vocal anatomy. So he's opening up that jaw. Now, again, we've talked about this, but it's worth saying again, when you do this, you don't need to, see how much I'm shoving there? It's not that much work. You're not going to feel like the back of your tongue is straining. It's just a comfortably dropped jaw. Like this, so like a little bit more, like if you say ah, like in father, and then go a little bit farther than that, you hear the little difference that happened there already? Right? Okay, perfect. And then you can play around with the back of the tongue, but you don't need to like shove it around. The back of the tongue is where the back of the tongue connects to like your hyoid bone, and a lot of muscles connect there, so you don't want to get too crazy. But right there. And then listen to me push my lips forward. That's literally pushing your lips forward. You're just lengthening the tube of your mouth to make it lower, and then closing the lips up to really give it that. That's what it is. Now the yells, those. Here's the thing. It's those, if you don't know like good, like we can even say belting technique, those are kind of risky business. Let's hear it one more time. Just a little bit. So with those, the technique is similar to belting, and you really have to be relaxed. And even though, there's some vocal fold involved, like clearly, you have to really be good at maintaining your resonance because it's built on a shout. Yay! Inside the system, like that's how it works. And if you don't know how to maintain your distortion and your resonance properly, then you're gonna have a bad time. You can really strain your voice with this. Now, I'm not saying that he's specifically doing it wrong here. Sometimes it can sound right, but then when you see the person doing the vocals, there's so much tension, their face is turning red, or they look like this, pretty relaxed. Inside the system. And in that case, they're gonna be fine. So it's I'm not saying he's doing it wrong, but just be aware this can be risky if you want to do these style of vocals. Anyways, let's move forward. Looks like next is Jordan James, Disentomb. All right. Here we go. Let's go a little bit. Let's allow ourselves a transition. He starts at 215. Let's go to 211. God. Dude, I loved that. 237. Let's go back. God damn. Wait, hold on a second. No, 215. Man, this is kind of confusing. It's fun, but it's a little confusing. So this is kind of the same as before. This is just good, solid false chord low technique. And I think that goes to show how much just how far just the basics can take you. Now, if you're listening, Jordan James, I'm not saying that you are a basic vocalist. Heard your music, very, very talented. But I think that sometimes, what I'm saying is that I think sometimes people get overly distracted by like tunnel throat and whistle screams and all these crazy things that are so fringe that are great, but the basics, oh man, the basics are so good, and they're done really well here. Maximum room for distortion, allowing a little puff in the cheeks to kind of get that push. See, like how I can say the word push or push. Same thing. So we're doing. I'll even show you.
Push.
You see how one just kind of has some body, has some attack on it, and the attack is just coming from your cheeks puffing air. It's not coming from doing anything down here. Awesome job. We're gonna listen to it again, and then we're gonna get to 237, which is Caleb Branham again, Lowlife. Oh, here it is. The shouting vocals, we already talked about that, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. But, the shouting, belting, relaxed. Be very careful with this if this is what you're going to do. We know who this is. This is Alex Terrible. He's very easy to recognize. We're just going to listen to the whole thing through, and then we'll go back and talk about it. Was that the end of his spot? Let's see, Alex Terrible. No, he goes to 320. Yeah, that was really good. So one thing I really like about Alex Terrible, and in the last video of Slaughter to Prevail that we did, I think it was a couple months ago, one thing that I really like is that, this is going to be kind of hard to explain, but he's able to keep the tongue in the back to help shape resonance, while also articulating the front of the scream with the front of his mouth, spitting. There's a word here, it starts with F, I don't remember what it was, but you can hear him really spit it out. Yeah, you hear how he's spitting those? I'm exaggerating a little bit. He doesn't do it quite that crazy, but that's one thing I like about him. He maximizes resonance while also articulating the front. And oftentimes when we do that, it's easy to lose resonance because we're doing so much closing up here. So good job. That sounds sick.
That you ready?
So here's the thing about that. If done properly, that takes a certain level of coordination, because you have to basically turn on the vocal folds, minimize or completely remove the distortion, turn off the vocal folds, maximize the distortion. So it's you're kind of balancing between the two. It's like you have one technique and you're going ba 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 ba, which this is easy to do, but imagine like this is a false chord low and this is a sort of almost voice acting tough guy talking with no distortion, and you're switching back and forth between those really fast. The fear that's ready. Kind of bouncing back and forth. I mean, I'll be honest, he just did it better than me right there. The fear that you ready. Again, doing a low, but with instead of an ooh sound, an e sound. You can even push it out the side of your mouth. Sometimes I do that when I want it to get a little bit more squealy. It helps a little bit. There's a little bit of spit there too. He says death comes, but he says death comes, death. It's like you can hear a little bit of a sound, and I think it sounds really cool. All right, that's the end of Alex Terrible. Now we've got CJ McCreary. Ugh. Good vocals. So we'll stick to technique talk here. So that was wild. That was wild. 320. Let's hear that again. So with that, he starts off with a normal, well, I don't know, normal is the word, but a false chord guttural. And what he's doing is he's really maximizing the lips forward. I'm 90% sure he's pointing them down a little bit, so see that? Maybe even a little like that. And he's actually narrowing. He's creating a tiny little tube. So he's maximizing resonant space here, and then he's kind of creating this into a little bit more of a tube. And then just moving the tongue around. He does that a lot of forward and back tongue movement. We'll hear it one more time, then we'll move on. Where does he start 320? Bathing in repressed filth. God, that was sick. Tunnel highs. Actually, let's talk about that word embarrassment here. He starts open, and then you can hear him move into that tiny little tube for the vocals to come out. He drops it on the last syllable. There's also a lot of tongue moving in there. So tongue not touching the roof of the mouth. Tongue touching the roof of the mouth. Next, we've got Duncan Bentley from Vulvodynia and that band, XAVLEG Bemouth. I actually found a video on how to say it because I could see that he's in here. So to anybody who's curious, this band right here, let's zoom in. The next vocalist is in a band that is called... it's not showing you. I'm sorry. We'll just forget about it. But basically, the band is like 20 letters long, and it's really hard to say. But since it's not zooming in, we'll just skip it. Anyways, cool vocalist. Haven't heard this section, so let's just get into it. Wait a minute. Sorry. What? I'm sorry, what? was like I think that was the elusive whistle scream. So we heard some. We're gonna focus on that because the other stuff he sounds unique, but the technique is kind of similar. Like turning off and on, like Alex Terrible did, and almost like a Phil Bozeman-y low. But what I want to talk about is that whistle scream. So I've been doing a little bit of research on that, and by a little I mean a lot. And the whistle scream actually is very heavily impacted by the shape of your vocal folds because it really has to be done from a fry position. And so people who have like a naturally high singing voice, they are going to have a much easier time doing it because essentially what's happening is you're holding, and there's a lot of coordination. You're holding your vocal folds together. This isn't some weird like anime cat pose. This is vocal folds, right? And then you're making a little bit of an opening at the bottom. And then the air is whistling. You're literally whistling, but instead of whistling here, you're whistling down here. And it's coming through that way. And if you have thicker, wider vocal folds, you're gonna have a hard time. I'm based on the research that I've done, I'm willing to say that I probably am physically incapable of doing this. Because my comfortable, like if you listen to my band Kardashev's music, especially the Almanac, my singing's kind of high up there like this. But that's not my comfort zone. My comfort zone is like right here. Think of me fondly when I say good. There it is. When I say goodbye. Like that's where I sit. So this I probably wouldn't be able to do. Anyways, that's enough talking. Let's just listen to it. Where does he start? 3:45. Sorry, I interrupted. I just heard that and I was like, what the hell's going on? So there are a couple vocal layers going on there, which is adding to a little bit of the cavernous, but he's doing a lot of that on his own, of course. We all do multiple vocal layers. Some people get mad about that, but like you gotta cut through the mix, Anything past that, if you have engineering questions, you'd have to ask my boy Nico, because I just yell at the microphone. He does all the magic. But anyways. That's the tongue curl for the guttural, but pulled back and not touching. So instead of like the tip of the teeth, like that, that's more like this. Old school sounding pig squeals. Again, not my forte, but I usually, if I'm going to do when I push out the side, that's how I do it. And it's a E, you're screaming with an E sound, the tongue up for a guttural, then I push it out to the side like that. Thy art is murder. Yep. Yeah, so actually, confession. I've never been a huge Thy Art is Murder fan, but I do really like CJ's vocals, and I will tell you why. They're not bad. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just for some reason it never really clicked with me. But I do, every time I hear CJ, I'm like, damn, he's got something good going. And the reason is because he's got kind of like a roar going on. A lot of deathcore vocals that you hear, it's a compressed like gurgle. Right? It's that. But for him, he's more, and then he's got a couple vocal layers going on. But the thing I like about it is that he switches to his low just with his mouth. At least from live videos that I've seen and from what I'm hearing, that's what it seems like to me. So I want to listen to it one more time, and then I'll kind of tell you where it is and how it's happening. 423. Let's just call it 420. 420. Oh my god. You see how all I did was close my mouth and point it down a little bit? It's about all you have to do if you're just going to have the roar behind it. On Enemy, a nice big mouth. Sounds like we're changing to another vocalist. Yes, we are. 450. Ben Duerr. That guy's going to be on this channel forever. Shadow of Intent, Hollow Prophet. You all know that. We've talked about him a lot. So let's hear it. Anybody else getting Phil Bozeman vibes? We really can talk about everything he did with this phrase. We've made our mark in this dying world. Really, really dope. So that's kind of similar to before. Wide open guttural. And then he kind of closes it. Let me hear it one more time. So he's using kind of a thinner mouth shape. It's kind of how he does that. Tunnels on the lows. You know what? Here's the thing. So tunnels on lows, they're kind of tricky business. And they took me a little while. And just to be transparent. And the reason is because with a low, we're creating maximum space. But then with the tunnel, we kind of have to move our tongue forward. So what I do for a tunnel on my lows is instead of putting the tongue behind the teeth, which is pretty universal, right? On how universal, as if people are doing tunnel throat all around the world. But instead of doing this, that's my tunnel position generally. That's how I do it. Instead of the tongue here, I just lift it up. And then I just set it on my lip. Not quite the same thing, but for me, it's a lot easier. So that's how I do it. And he did a really good job here. So we're to Jamie Hanks. I declare war. Sacrificer. The name slipped me, but I know who this is. You know, it sounds like he's maybe doing like a Fry shout. Maybe not. So I think he's building on a shout. You know, like the... But then, yeah, maybe it is a Fry. Because it's much more compressed than that. Huh. Let's see what's going on here, folks. I think you could do it either way. Because that I was just doing was more close to the false chord side of things. Of course, it's me. But I think you could do it either way. Oh, yep. Looks like we're ending with Dan Watson, the old vocalist for Infinite Annihilator. Enterprise Earth and Mirelore these days. Let's start that over. So Dan, back when I first heard Infinite Annihilator, their very first album, I looked at a lot of videos of how he did his vocals, and he actually uses probably more vocal fry than most deathcore vocalists that I know, unless he's changed his style these days. But his lows, they were those like super quiet, just sort of push fries, which are not my forte. I'll tell you that right now. But it's a great way to do vocals if that's what you want to do. You know, some people, there's kind of like this conflict, fry versus false chords. Sometimes, most people don't care, but they're both safe. They're both great. Do what you think sounds cool. Yeah, one thing with vocal fry that one thing that you'll be able to hear, and I'm pretty sure these are fry, but one thing you can hear is that the distortion is very, very smooth. Like, it has a very smooth sound, if that makes any sense. So, like, with my false chord, you can hear, like, the individual, like, rattle, cluck, cluck, cluck. But with fry, sometimes you can't hear that. It's almost like a very thin, perfectly smooth white noise. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people like it. It's not my preferred sound of a metal vocal, although I think Dan Watson does it very, very well. I think he sounds great. So let's just listen to his section. I'll shut the fuck up, and we can see what's going on. Oh! The nice thing about fry is that you can go a pretty long time. I mean, you can go a long time with false chord as well, but it is admittedly a little harder because the airstream is, the breath stream, we should say, is more free flowing. So it's a little bit harder to get long held out. You can totally do it, long held out vocals with false chord. With fry, I mean, you can tell that when they recorded this, there's a little bit of overlap, which is totally fine. But you also, there are live videos of him just going and going and going. Trevor Strnad, Black Dahlia Murder, is a great example of this because you can just go. So if like long held out phrases are something you want to do, vocal fry may be the place you want to look. All right. Listen to how long he goes on Undone. And really, it starts with B. He goes, must be undone. Then it just sort of fades out. That was tough. I'm not gonna lie. Holding it that long was hard. Oh, but holy crap. That was probably the most fun I've had with one of these reaction videos. Yeah, holding it that long, that was tough, but I did it. I almost want to try one more time. So that's the end of the reaction. We're going to keep going with the video and just have some fun. I've got a community feature that I want to do, but I just want to try that one more time, see if I can do it a little bit better. Yeah, it's a long time to hold it. All right, that song was pretty cool. Like it felt like not a museum of deathcore vocals, because museum insinuates things that are no longer in use, and a lot of these people are very active still and very relevant still. So museum of deathcore vocals isn't right. Exhibit of deathcore metal vocals, maybe that's what we're talking about. But that was dope. That was so sick. I really enjoyed doing that. Let's do our community feature, because today's is pretty damn good. So one of our community members, Jesse, he says, I was never able to practice at home, but I work night shift and it can be great for random lyrics and practice. And this video is a hoot. I love it. So let's check it out. You might not be able to read it. Let's make this just a little bit bigger so you can kind of read what he's doing. Give me a second here. La la la. There we go. We're just gonna make it like the full screen for a second.
Please do not leave my scoop in the ice. The ice cube fire must be coming in the ice bucket. Stars.
All right, let's bring it back here. So first of all,
that shit, boy. Aim it up.
get out of here. First of all, the low sounded really good.
Please do not let the ice scoop in the ice bucket.
Whatever it was, the yells sounded like maybe you need to. It's hard because again I can't see you, but the yells sounded like they may be a bit strained. So I would just practice by putting your hand gently on your throat and seeing how your neck muscles feel. And then it also sounded like all your distortion was coming from your actual vocal folds. Try to practice those yells.
Yay! Yay! Yay!
Like that.
Yay! Yay!
When I do that, there's all like that distorted, scratchy, whatever you want to call it, feeling is up here. I can feel my soft palate going, and my vocal folds feel pretty relaxed. Anyways, that's it for today. Quite a long video. It's going to take a while to edit and upload, but it was a hell of a time. If you want to vote on these videos, if you have a specific song you want to see, hop on the Facebook community page and hop in the conversation. I think we're almost at 1,500 members now, so it's pretty cool. But that being said, many thanks, much love. I'm out.